Hey everyone, welcome to Learn It on YouTube. This is going to be my first instructional video. What I'm going to do is show you how to lodge up the walls in your house by taking some simple pine boards that look like this and turning them into a rustic lodge, hand-hewn looking board like this. It's going to take a lot of work, so let's get started. After a lot of research and exploring, looking at different ideas and how people create their own walls in this manner, I realized that a lot of them didn't look quite right. I was going for a hand-hewn look, and a lot of people had like chippers just ripping boards apart and everything, but nothing really showed you those seams, those cut areas of a hand-hewn beam. So what I did was I got this adze hoe, that's what that's called, A-D-Z-E, and I started doing a lot of testing, and I was chipping away. Because when you see someone who does a hand-hewn beam, what they do is they cut with an axe and then they slice it out from in between. So I was trying to mimic that just by giving some big cuts. And what I do later with these cuts is I fill in those deeper areas with a darker stain to give it a little bit more depth. So as you see here, I'm doing little lines every foot or two, and then just chipping away little areas in between. It's a lot of work. It takes an awful lot. Probably shouldn't be wearing sneakers while doing this, but I do a lot of things dangerously, so anyway, we'll skip to the next part. Now this is a tool you really don't want to be reckless with. This is an Arbortech Turbo Plane. This thing really chops that wood right out of there. My goal in doing this is getting the sides first, and then I'll go across the top. I just want to wreck this wood. I want to rip it to pieces. When I'm done with this, it looks like these boards went through a wood chipper on the driveway. So what I'm doing, just trying to rough it up, make it uneven. Also, when I get down to the surface, you want to get all of the surface, the clean surface off of there. You don't want any of that because it makes it a little harder. It's harder to bring up bring out the grain when the surface is still smooth. So you want to get every square inch of that. And as you'll see when I get into it a little bit further on the surface, I try and kind of take out some of those really deep grooves, just to kind of smooth them slightly, as you don't want splinters or anything. But here I'm just, as you see, I'll get to it in a second where I start working the top of it. Another important thing with this, since it does throw chips of wood all over the place, you really need to have a face mask. I learned the hard way. That stuff was shooting up at me like crazy. So here where that wood is sticking up real bad, I'm trying to get in there a little bit more, and I'll even go back to it a little bit later and smooth it out just a little bit more. But I'm just trying to get rid of all the smoothness of the board. There's really no rhyme or reason to it, just go to town on it. I said I wanted to get rid of all the surface, and you see those little shiny areas. Those are surface that I didn't get. When you're working in direct sunlight on a sunny day like that, it doesn't work too good. You can't see everything. What I'm doing now is I'm just taking a saw, I actually had to lower it more than that, but try and leave about 1/4 of an inch of the saw blade out. Tighten it up, and then I'm just going to make some random slices along the length of the board. What this does is it helps me get that split look, because when I was looking at a bunch of different logs, they all seem to be, all those old logs, they have splits in them. Now, the curve of a blade isn't going to give you a big split, but as you'll see later, when I put a deeper dark stain inside those grooves, and then blow it out with a blower, with an air hose, it kind of spreads it out, and it does give you that effect. It looks a lot thicker than they actually are. This next tool I'm using is a Makita wheel sander. This is vital to getting that overall real old look. What this does is it pulls out the soft wood and brings out the grain. Starting on the edges, and then I'll get into the rest of the board. But one thing to be aware of when you're looking at this, it comes with a nylon brush. That's just not going to cut it. I got a 120 grit, and they do have an 80 grit, and I'm not sure, that may have been better. I just got this one without knowing there was another one, and it worked. But the 80, it may be too aggressive, or it might make the work go a lot faster, because this is another really tough job. You got to go over it and just really pull out that grain. It also does a great job of cleaning up all the rough edges from the processes done before. Now, one thing to be aware of with this machine is expensive. It's about $450 when I bought it, and the brush that I got was another $138. But I tried it with a little brush you put on the end of your power drill, and I went through a bunch of those, and it took forever. This job just, if you're going to do it right, you got to have the right tools, and this is the one tool that you really can't do without. Here you can start to see the effects, how it brings out the grain and cleans up the wood. Still looks a little rough, but I will be taking this out again. You'll see after I do a little bit of initial staining. So with almost all of the woodwork out of the way, now we get to a little bit more of the fun. This is, like I said, filling that groove with a dark stain. What I used was Jacobian, and you don't have to worry about being precise here. You can get it anywhere. It doesn't really matter in the end, as you'll see. Next, I use the same dark color and just try and find the deep spots. Anywhere you got the real deep cuts. Again, I'm trying to create a shadow effect, a little deeper, a little more interest to the wood. And like before, don't worry if you get it all over the place. It really doesn't matter at this point. Now I'm taking the air hose and blowing out all the wet stain that's in the grooves. Again, this kind of helps widen the grooves because that stain comes out along the side. It looks really messy, and honestly, when I was first working on this, I had no idea where this was going, and at this point, I thought it was a total wash. But stick with it, and you'll see the results. Now I'm back to using the wheel sander. What this is doing is it's taking away a lot of that stain that's just kind of puddling up on the surface and kind of grinding it in a little bit more. It also spreads it and just gives it a little bit more of a uniform look. But again, at the end of this, it's not going to look pretty. Not yet. After cleaning the board off with the air hose, the next step is to use a wood conditioner. They say it works to make stain penetrate to go more evenly on pine and woods like that. I found that's true, but it also makes the stain go a lot farther. It's a lot easier to put the stain on there with this conditioner, and I think it tones down the color of the stain. This is where it all starts to come together. Once this stain is down, it just kind of, everything just looks so much better. All the colors work together. Speaking of colors, I used 3 different stain colors mixed together. I have 1 part red mahogany, 2 parts early American, and I think it was 7 parts of provincial. Tried a whole bunch of different combinations, and that seems to be the one that we like the best. Now you can see what the finished product will look like. I added a coat of sealer that just brought out the color a little bit more, and it protects it. Don't forget to get these edges and pull out any little loose splinters that are on there. After that, it's ready to go. I hope you enjoyed it. So once again, here are a few pictures of the areas I did this way. There are a few more rooms that I'm going to do. I wanted to mention that the spacing I used in between the boards is about 3 inches, and I used real chinking in between those. I tried looking at other methods of trying to come up with something since it's indoors, but I came to the conclusion that just using the real thing would look best. Good luck!